If you guys remembered, I had a hedgehog that my friend found beside the street that was gonna get attacked by dogs, but then yeah, he got it and then he passed it over to me. Well, for those who don't know, that hedgehog actually passed away. We were guessing because it's old age, because my friend found it when it was already like super big, and hedgehogs, they don't really live very long. So yeah, it was already a fully grown adult, and unfortunately it passed away. And I did mention in that passing away video that I will be preserving its skull. So let me teach you how to clean a skull my way. So I've got the skull of my hedgehog over here. I put it outside to let all the bugs and whatever things decompose the body, and then I got the skull, which is currently in water right now. So this here is the process called maceration. For those who don't know, it's basically you put a bone in water and let the water, bacteria, everything rot off the meat, and then once they all fall off the bone, you can take it out, start degreasing it. And yeah, basically the process of maceration is to get all the meat and all the whatever stuff out. So that is what it is. I know it sounds super gross and all, but yeah, it is gross actually, and the smell is not pleasant at all. This skull has been in the water here for about, I would say, close to a week already, because when I got the skull already, all the meat started to rot off and I just washed it off. So I just put it in here to get rid of all the, sorry if it's not focused, you see all this white stuff that's stuck on the skull? Those are the excess tissue that I am currently trying to get off. I think they're already soft enough to get off. Let me show you what I'm gonna do. I'll put my phone right here. So basically what I have here is an old toothbrush, and what I'm gonna be doing is, as you can see, I have the skull right here. Just gonna take the toothbrush and just slowly brush off all these things. See, they are slowly coming out. So yeah, this is what I do. I just brush everything off very gently with an old toothbrush. You want to do this for the whole skull. Get rid of as much as you can. See, the problem with this skull is that it has 2 teeth missing, and I found it already with 2 teeth missing. So I'm guessing like maybe the ants took it out and brought it away. I don't know, but yeah, that sucks. And you want to use a very soft toothbrush. Don't use the medium or the hard one. Get either the soft or the extra soft one so you won't break the bone, and just slowly, gently get rid of as much stuff as you can. I don't know if this is gross for you guys or not, but to me, I think it's pretty interesting, and it makes you kind of like have a remembrance item of your pet. Everyone has their own ways of how they want to remember their pets, and this is how I choose to. And also, I think it makes a very good educational piece, because a lot of people probably haven't seen a real hedgehog skull and how it looks like. So having one that is super clean and just up for display, I think that's really good. And you can educate people about how their teeth are like. By looking at an animal's teeth, you can actually see and learn what they eat, and I think that's really cool and very educational. If you don't do it carefully, see, parts start to fall off, but no worries, these I can just super glue back on once everything is done and dried up. Keep all of the broken bones back into the water over there. Make sure I don't lose them, so I can articulate them back once everything is done. Alright, so I've done basically the same thing with the mandibles, or also known as the jawbone. So I've just scraped off, like brushed off all of the grime and whatever leftover stuff on it, and it looks to be looking good, super clean and all. So now the next stage is to degrease. And what I mean by degreasing is, you see the bone right now, you always see like in the museum, like bones are all super white and stuff, but look at this bone, you can still see like yellowish tints on it. That is basically the grease, the oils that are in the bone. If you don't degrease your bones, over time the grease will start to eat into the bone and eventually start to rot. So degrease it. Now the best is to semi degrease it, because you still want some grease in the bone so it will not be too brittle. Basically, bones, they're made up of all these grease and stuff, so if you 100% degrease the bone, it's gonna look nice, it's gonna look super white, but it's going to be very brittle at the same time. It's okay for me because I'm gonna be putting it in a cabinet, so I will not be handling it often. So I'm gonna try to 100% degrease this thing. If you guys want to have a skull where you can play around with it or like show hand kits and all, it's best to not 100% 100% degrease it because it gets brittle. And of course, degreased or greased, you of course don't want to drop the skull. So next stage will be the degreasing part, especially at the part where the mouth is here. You see, it's like super yellowish. Yep, those are all grease. So our goal is to get all of the grease out. There are many ways. You can use acetone, you can use ammonia, you can use a lot of things, but I'm just gonna use plain old dish soap water. So basically I put the skull, dip it into the dish soap water and just leave it in for a couple days, couple weeks, depending on what animal you're doing and how greasy it is. If you degrease a pig, it's very greasy animal. It can even take 2 years and it's not going to be fully degreased. So yeah, like a skull like this, maybe a couple weeks will do, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it should be good for the whitening process. But as for now, I'm just gonna dip it into some detergent water. You can use Dawn dish soap, but I don't have it here, so I just use normal organic dish soap, which is, yeah, it's gonna work. And how you're gonna know whether it's fully degreased or not degreased or what? So basically, once you put the skull into the water, after a few days you'll see the water get cloudy, so that means all the grease is being pulled out into the water. If after you do it for a long time and after you change the water, yes, you have to change the degreasing solution, and after a while, after you've changed it and then you don't see it cloudy after a few days, then you'll know that the bone is fully degreased, or I mean almost fully degreased. Okay, so what I have here is just organic dish soap water. I just put a drop of organic dish soap and then just topped it up with water. It's just a 4-ounce deli cup, and we're just gonna drop the skull and everything, all the other bones in, and we'll just leave them in for, I don't know, I think dish soap is still the safest. If you want to use acetone, ammonia, that's fine as well, but for me I think dish soap is still the safest. I don't know, just my opinion. And I think that dish soap is the longest process, but I mean, I'm not in a rush, so yeah, that's fine. Alright guys, so I've been degreasing Jaxon's skull for quite a while, and as you can see, the water is no longer cloudy, so that indicates that it is fully degreased. Yes, it does not look like it is white, but that is what this thing is for. So as you can see, a default skull is around this color. It varies from skull to skull. The whitening part is this guy's job. Hydrogen peroxide, 50%. Yes, this is very high. When you are whitening skulls, you want to use about 3 to 6%. So yeah, 50% is going to have to be diluted. Food grade, high concentration. Colorless and slightly viscous, corrosive, causes severe burns. Yes, this thing, you need gloves to use it. It is a strong oxidizer capable of igniting combustible materials. Now, if you're dealing with something that can ignite stuff, use gloves, guys. Please use the gloves. They were created for a reason, not advisable for consumption. And there we go, handle with gloves. But first, I'm gonna have to go and pour away the water in here. Okay, so since this is 50% and we want it down about 3 to 6%, so I'll put it to 5%. So it's about 10% of 50%. So I'm gonna dilute this 1 part to 10 parts water, if that makes sense. So over here, I have got 50 milliliters of water. I know, beautiful cup, huh? Yeah, I've got 50 milliliters of water over here, 50 ml, and I measured it with this syringe. So now what I'm going to be doing is getting 5 ml of this hydrogen peroxide and mixing it into this water and then pouring it into the skull. Now, I did mention, yes, I know, I did say that you should use gloves. I don't have gloves. How embarrassing. But I'm going to use this sleeve thing. So this is my not sponsored Shimano sleeve for me when I go fishing, just like that. And I think this is even better than a glove because it covers my hand in case it splashes. Actually, bad idea because it's leaking. It's going through the thing, and yep, I should not be using this. I'm gonna be using an old shirt just to open the cap. And then now, guys, please use gloves. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm dumb. All right, so now I'm gonna be pouring a little bit of peroxide into the cap. And I'm going to be taking 5 milliliters, being very careful to not splash on myself. So as you can see, that is 3. Put it into the water. That's 2. So 3 plus 2, that's 5. So now before anything happens, I'm going to have to close it back. Use the shirt, press it down. Why isn't it going down? There we go. And then now, oh, really? I forgot to pour this in. I'm such a genius, I swear. Okay, so now this is about 5% hydrogen peroxide, if my math is correct. And now we're just going to be pouring it into the skull. There we go, perfect amount, and it should start bubbling. So as you can see, the skull is starting to bubble up. We'll come back after a few days and see how white it has turned. It's already starting to whiten, look at that. That is why we use peroxide to whiten skulls. Do not ever use chlorine bleach like Clorox. No, that's a big no. It's going to eat your bone, and your bone is just gonna like turn into dust, literally. Even if you dip it into the Clorox for a couple seconds, the Clorox would have sipped into the bone, because bone, they are porous. So yeah, it's gonna start eating a bone. Even if you wash it, you cannot wash the Clorox fully. Even if you keep the bone dry, it's going to start eating and breaking down the bone, and eventually after a few years, it's gonna be mush. So don't ever use Clorox. The only way to whiten bones, hydrogen peroxide. So it's been a couple weeks. Yes, I left it in the peroxide for a couple weeks. It depends how much you want the bone to whiten. The longer you keep it in the peroxide, the lighter the color will get. So I want it to be like a fully white museum quality skull. So that is why I left it for several weeks. So don't have to worry about it. Peroxide is not going to damage your bone like chlorine bleach does. So now I'm going to just put it in my room to let it dry, air dry. You don't want to put it, I mean, you can put it in the sun, but it's best to air dry it. If you put it in the sun, it can whiten a little bit more from the UV, but I would say air dry is the best. But yeah, anyways, once it is fully dried, it is time to start to glue all of the teeth in. So yeah, all the parts that are broken, this is the time. You see, I've got super glue over here, and I'm not pouring the super glue directly on. I'm using a toothpick. So as you can see, a toothpick dipped into the, what do you call it, super glue. And then what I'm just going to be doing is just dabbing onto the teeth. You can, if you want a even more neat, how can I say it? Like a very neat work, then you can take out each tooth and gently super glue each root and just put the tooth back into the skull or the mandible. But I just chose to do this because it's way easier and way quicker, and I just don't want to deal with so many teeth around. So yeah, if you'd ask me, I would say the work will end up neater if you put the super glue. If you're doing it my style over here and not taking out the tooth individually, you can do it on the insides of the jaw and the skull as well, on the insides, not the part that is facing outwards, if that makes any sense. So yeah, you won't see the super glue once it dries. I usually do the skull first, but for this one I did the jaws first. So yeah, once both the jaws are done, I am moving on to the skull, which is going to be the same thing. I'm not going to be putting the super glue on the outer layer. I'm going to be putting it on the inner layer. As you can see over here, you see on the insides of the skull. So on the outside, when you're looking at the exterior of the skull, you will not see any super glue marks, which is great. And also the good thing, if you fully whiten your skull, you guys know that super glue, when they dry, a lot of them turn white. So if your skull is fully white, you will not really notice the dried super glue residue on it. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So once all the teeth are glued in, remember this part, the side of the skull that broke off. Yeah, it is time to glue this part. It's going to be a little bit tricky. Just take your time, guys. Just take your time, because you cannot rush this, okay? You're gonna have to take your time, slow and steady, to get a almost perfect work. Once you have it in position, just dab on some super glue and you'll be good to go. And make sure right before you do the super glue process, make sure the skull is 100%, if not 200% dry. Just to be safe, you know, you don't want your super glue to not work as it is supposed to work. It's supposed to work on dried surfaces, so yeah, make sure your skull is fully dried before you start messing around with the super glue. So usually once I've glued on everything that I want to, I'll just touch up the skull a little bit, like in the small little cracks in the skull. I'll just dab on a little drip of super glue just so that it'll hold the skull in one piece, because you don't want the skull to just suddenly break apart when you're handling it, because yeah, that's going to be a real pain in the butt to put it back together. So the next step is to join both mandibles or jaw, for those who don't want to sound fancy. For bigger skulls, you can use these, what you call that, the hot glue. You can use hot glue gun and just melt it in between. But for small skulls like this, small mandibles like this, super glues, they work just fine. So what you want to do is you put on one side and then you join the mandibles back together and just hold them in place until the super glue dries. It can be a little bit of a pain because they will separate back if the super glue is not dried, but just be patient, guys. This is not a rushing process. Let's just say that doesn't work and you're super frustrated like I was. Okay, you can put the mandible back in the skull and then put the, you see, stuff are falling off. Yeah, that's the nasal turbinate, by the way. So yeah, you can put both mandibles in, just line them up with the jaw so that they're like in a straight position, and then dab some super glue where you are joining them together and they should hold. As you can see, I can let it go. Oh, I had to drop it. Of course I had to drop it. But yeah, if you don't drop it, they will hold. So as I was saying earlier, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna line them up and then you put the super glue to join them back together. Don't drop it because then your mandibles, your jaws are gonna separate again. So you just leave it like this, glue it, and then you just leave it aside and let it dry in peace. Like air dry, don't put it in the sun, please. Yes, it will take a quicker time, but be patient, guys. Keep it in a room, let it air dry, and it'll be good for you. Give it a few days to fully dry. And once it is fully dried, you guys, now it is time to seal it up. So over here, I have spray paint, which is just clear lacquer pretty much. Yeah, we're gonna be spraying it onto the skull. That way, it will be able to seal the skull off. And yep, it'll make it more solid. At least spray the skull and yeah, just oh my gosh, it fell. But yeah, you just want to lightly spray the skull. It is recommended that you do more like thin coats instead of one huge coat, but I'm just doing like one huge coat because I'm very impatient. But I mean, it's fine as well. It just takes a little longer to dry, but it's always better to put a few light coats and let it dry in between before you put the next coat. But for me, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to be touching the skull anyways. I'm just going to be putting it on the shelf just for it to dry and leaving it there. I'll probably just forget about it for a few days. And yeah, we'll be good to go. The reason you want to do this is so you'll bond the bone together, and also your skin oils, it will not penetrate the bone because bone is porous, and if you hold it like as it is, your oils and your whatever dirt can go into the bone and it's going to be difficult to clean. You're probably going to have to degrease it again. Alright guys, so once it is fully dried, we have got the final product over here. Take a look at that. Is that not beautiful or what? Look at all the shines. Now this is what I call a museum quality skull. I mean, like, besides the point that it doesn't have all its teeth. Damn it, ants. Yeah, but it took a long process to clean this, and I mean, it could take as quick as in a day. You could probably whiten it in just 2 days and yeah, all will be done. But since this is a remembrance item, I wanted to make it like super nice and clean and just, yeah, something to remember that will last pretty much forever. If you take care of a bone like this, it'll last you pretty much your whole life. So it is awesome. And yeah, now it's gonna be easier to clean because the skull has been coated, and my skin oils will not penetrate the skull because, you know, bone is porous, and if you pour anything on it, you spill anything on it, it's going to stain. It's going to go into the bone and stain the bone. Anyways, that is the final product. Look at that. I'm really proud to show you guys this. Oh man, what a beautiful specimen. Nature truly is a beautiful thing. Man, look at the details of the bone. It's so different even on this side and this side. It's crazy. So awesome. So yeah, that'll be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you've learned something. I don't know, because yeah, I do this when a pet of mine, a beloved pet of mine, passes away. Some of you may think it's inappropriate, but you know, to each their own, right? I like to do this for remembrance. I can hold something that is a part of them that will be with me pretty much forever. And yeah, like it or not, it is what it is, guys. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Have a good one, guys. Stay safe and peace.